G'day my fellow media collectors, I'm Troy and today we're looking at The Condor is an animated superhero film that was produced by Power Entertainment, film Roman and Manga Entertainment, and had its television premiere on the 24th of March 2007 on the Cartoon Network. This movie was released under the Stan Lee Presents banner, which is a series of direct-to-DVD animated films distributed by Power Entertainment with Anchor Bay Entertainment in association. The story was by Stan Lee with the script by former The New Teen Titans writer Marv Wolfman, and this project reflects Stan Lee's later career efforts to create a new hero outside of the Marvel brand for a new generation of fans. This DVD has a runtime of 74 minutes. This DVD was released on the 20th of March 2007. And it was distributed by Genius Entertainment. The story follows champion skater Tony Valdez, who gets brutally attacked and is left with critical injuries on the same day his parents are tragically killed in a car crash. With his life at rock bottom, he discovers his family's ties to a powerful technology company, and using an experimental pair of high-tech skates and nano-powered suit, Tony becomes the Condor, a skateboarding superhero seeking justice. As he unravels the mystery behind his family's death, he faces a villain with similar enhancements, testing his strength, resolve, and sense of identity in a battle for vengeance and redemption. Now, the script for this film aims to blend multiple genres of superhero action, youth culture, skateboarding, and just a dash of sci-fi. And while its concept is intriguing, I'm afraid that the execution is, well, a bit uneven and often feels underdeveloped at times. Now, despite its originality in its character and its concept, the script leans too heavily on the usual familiar superhero cliches without subverting or adding any nuance to the character or story, and it ends up feeling more derivative rather than innovative. Look, the overall pacing is uneven at times and moves so quickly that nothing in the story really has time to sort of resonate or breathe. With his parents dying, he becomes crippled, then he's suddenly a hero with nanotech powered skates, all within literal minutes. There is no real build up, no real development of the character, just a checklist of superhero tropes slapped together, leaving little room for any emotional investment in this story. And look, let's not forget the dialogue of this film, which is, at times can be very clunky and very unnatural, especially in, shall we say, some of the emotional scenes, and the attempt at sounding hip or edgy often comes across as forced and dated, missing the mark for who it was actually intended, a teen audience, as it tries so hard to sound cool and urban, but ends up feeling forced, awkward, and dated, God, even by 2007 standards. The villain of the film really lacks any depth, serving more as more of a plot device than a compelling foil to the Condor, with his motivations being vaguely outlined and his connection to Tony feels more functional than narratively satisfying. While the script for the Condor shows flashes of, shall we say, originality and carries the DNA of Stan Lee's tried and true superhero formulas, it suffers from weak dialogue, thin character development, and rushed storytelling. I mean, look, it's a concept that had potential, that's for sure, but ultimately needed a tied up, more mature script to truly soar. Look, in the end, it's a cool idea, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately it was just weighed down by a generic and undercooked script at best. That's probably the best way I can describe it. And for this, look, the best I could probably do for a score for this is maybe a 12 out of 30. So this film is obviously not an adaptation of any comic book property out there, and the Condor is an original superhero concept created by Stan Lee, specifically for television and the DVD market, and it was part of a series of films under the Stan Lee Presents banner. As I've said in my review of Mosaic, this film is some of the first pieces of content that Power Entertainment had released, which is a company that was formed by Stan Lee, Gil Champion and Arthur Lieberman. Now, just like Mosaic, this is a concept idea by Stan, but like before as well, it was all fleshed out by the writer Marv Wolfman, who did all the heavy lifting on the project, shall we say, and creating the character as such. And as the same goes for Mosaic, the animation in this movie is exactly the same as well. It is very basic, even by 2007 standards, with the character models being very stiff, action scenes lack any sort of fluidity, and the overall visual style resembles a very low budget Saturday morning cartoon at best. I don't know what the budget was on these films, but it can't have been too much at all.
We are operating on a shoestring budget.
And I just wanted to say just one little thing that bugged me about his costume is that it feels like a bit of a rip-off of Nightwing's costume. I mean, just look at the chest logo. It's exactly the same damn thing. I mean,
come on, man.
Try a little harder, guys. I am sure you can come up with something else.
We're hopelessly stuck, completely out of ideas.
Now, I'll just grab the cast from here. And as you look at the cast list, the majority of the cast are, yes, some seasoned voice actors yet again, except for our star of the film, Wilmer Valderrama, who you might know from his role as Fez on That 70s Show, or if you had young kids back in the late 2000s, you might know him as the voice of the cartoon character Handy Manny. I sure know I do. So let's start with Wilmer Valderrama as Tony Valdez, aka the Condor. Now, Wilmer brings a recognizable voice, and look, he really does try to inject some charm into Tony. He seems like he's doing his best to give the character some sort of, I don't know, enthusiasm and heart, but he's ultimately let down by some clunky dialogue and some very thin character writing. His delivery sometimes feels a little strained, especially when trying to balance that those emotional beats with the teen-friendly snark. Still, he brings a certain likability to the character that it really sorely needs. The rest of the supporting voice actor cast, well, look, they struggle with the material they had. It really doesn't give them much to work with. And most of the characters, including Tony's friend and the villain, are written in such a flat, stereotypical way that no performance really stands out. They all kind of sound the same at times. Lines, often feel like they've been delivered from one extreme to the next, with it either being very wooden or overly theatrical, as if the actors are trying to bring some weight to a scene that simply isn't written there or has any real depth. I mean, overall, the voice cast delivers a bit of a mixed performance, and let's face it, they're often hampered by this very weak script, and it isn't through lack of talent, that's sure. So look, overall, I'm probably going to give this maybe, a 7 out of 20. Okay, as we look at the disc and the case, as you can see, it's just like the last one, Mosaic, just the logo on the front. Really didn't go out of their way to do anything special. There's the side, very similar again. And the back, same again. Not a real lot. Sometimes I think they were doing this just so they didn't show you what the movie was about, so you didn't know. Sort of suck you in. That's not too bad. Look, I don't mind the disc. At least they put a little bit of effort in there. But look, overall, it's about as basic as you're gonna get. Yeah, I don't know. It is. It's just average. So for that, I'm probably gonna give it an average score, and that would be 5 out of 10. So look, there are a couple of special features on this DVD, and they include an interview with the creator Stan Lee and making of the Condor featurette. Now, not a real lot here at all. God, even less than the last one. And as usual, we get Stan as his usual Stan Lee character, trying to sell you on how good this movie is, and you will love it. But I do have some issues with what Stan is saying in these special features. So the first thing is,
this was a Latino superhero, and it was the first one that I was really aware of.
Yep, no, that's not right. What about these guys? El Dorado and White Tiger, all created well before this guy.
Yeah, that's true.
And the second thing is,
Best thing that nobody that I know of had done yet is something everybody knows about, skateboards.
yep, wrong again, Stan. What about these guys? Rocket Racer and Night Thrasher. Okay, Rocket Racer was a bad guy, but Night Thrasher is a hero and has been around for decades.
Yeah, that's true.
But the third one?
I called him the Condor because almost all the other birds had been taken.
You have got to be kidding me. No other character named Condor? How about this guy? Or even this one? Sorry, Stan. It's all been done before. It's not the 60s anymore, mate.
Well, the 60s were fun, but now I'm paying for it.
So yeah, look, I just wanted to get that off my chest. I mean, I just laughed when I saw it. Nice try, Stan, but some of us old comic book geeks have a good memory of what has and has not been done before in comics. Anyway, without critiquing Stan aside, look, there's not much here, and it's just the usual stuff. And as they say, they might be special features, but there's nothing really special about either one of them. So look, for that, okay, because there's two, I'm going to give a score of 2 out of 10. As I bring up the Rotten Tomatoes scorecard, as you can see, the critics came in at, they didn't come at all. Okay, rightio. Let's have a look at the audience score. That came in at 33%. Now look, there was only 3 reviews from critics, and as you know, that's not enough to get a score. But the audience score, well, that was like only 13 reviews, so not a lot this time around for either critics or audience reviewers. But they were pretty much all on the same page, and they weren't nice at all about this movie, which I don't get, as I thought it was done a little better than Mosaic, to tell you the truth. But as far as these review goes, hey look, I could be the one in the wrong here, that's for sure. Anyway, as we only have that one score, I'm gonna have to do my best to round it up, and we're gonna get a score of 3 out of 10. Now, as I said before, I was very keen to watch these Stan Lee Presents movies for ages. And now that I've got Mosaic under my belt, it was time to check out the next one, the Condor. And well, it was more of the same again, unfortunately. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I actually didn't mind this one. I liked it better than Mosaic, but it's still, it wasn't great. And I'm sad to say, like, which is a bit disappointing because I wanted to like it. I mean, the first thing that struck me about this character kind of made me think, was Stan Lee sitting there going, what if I got Tony Hawk and RoboCop and they had a kid?
I think I got it.
The Condor. A superhero that nobody asked for.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
This one I did resonate with more than Mosaic, but it just seemed like it was just, how can I put it? It was just trying too hard to be something that teens of the time would kind of be into, and it came across like it was written by someone who hadn't actually talked to a teenager in about 15 years. And even the attempts at some cool skateboarding visuals looked lame at best, almost like the director of the cartoon had never bothered to do any research on what skateboarders were kind of doing at that time trick-wise, as it all looked like some very basic and boring stuff when it comes to the tricks. Look, I think I can actually give them points for trying, but it just felt like, how can I put it? It almost felt like a focus group put this together to tick a checklist of what they thought teenage boys would be into. And unfortunately, they missed the mark big time. And look, for that, oh God, the best I could probably do. Look, and I did like this one better. I'm probably gonna go maybe an 8 out of 20. For availability, I'm going to put this one at a 4 out of 5, as if you are looking for it, you probably will have to look around on your second-hand markets like eBay. As far as collectability goes, I'm definitely going to put this as a 1 out of 5, as look, you don't really need it in your collection unless you're a big Stan Lee fan. Now, for the average price, you are looking at somewhere between the $9 to $32 mark for DVD, so as I always say, it really pays to shop around. Let's go to the scorecard and see how this one shapes up. Now, for the final score, we get a grand total of 34 out of 100. Wow, almost the same score as Mosaic. I actually thought that might be slightly higher, to tell you the truth, but I still think it's a fair score for just another, and this is sad to say, cash in on Stan Lee's legacy.
I can't believe this is happening again.
Next week on the show, we're going to look at Stan Lee's Lightspeed as we do our Stan Lee month of his independent movies. So make sure you come back and check that one out. Thanks for watching.